Okay, Catherine. So when we hit the plus button in our app, the number of cups of coffee goes up.
Yeah, it goes from 2 cups to 3 cups.
And what happens when we press the plus button again?
Well, it actually just stays at 3.
Yeah. So no matter how many times we press the plus button in our app, the number of cups of coffee stays at 3.
Yeah.
Why is that happening?
Well, I think it's because in our code we only update it to 3 and we never go beyond that.
Right, that number is hard-coded right there.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of?
What is it?
Well, my computer science professor in college used to say,
Yeah.
when you submit your final project,
Yeah.
please no magic numbers.
Wait, what's the magic number?
Well, 3 is kind of a magic number. It's a
Okay.
magic number because we are doing the addition in our head, but
Okay.
then to the computer we're telling it the right answer.
Okay. Yeah, it would be better if the computer actually calculated itself.
Wait, when you talk about calculation and math,
Uh-huh.
I need to start writing things down.
Okay. Let's write some pseudocode.
Let's write the pseudocode for this. Assume that we've already created a quantity variable and set it to 2. When the plus button in the app is pressed, we're going to take the current quantity value, which is 2, add 1 to it to make it 3, and then store that as the new value inside the quantity variable. If we hit the plus button again, then we're going to take the current quantity value, which is now 3, add 1 to it, which makes it 4, and then store that as the new value inside the variable. And here's the actual Java code for it. We initialize the variable first. If the plus button is pressed again, then we're going to take the existing quantity value, add 1 to it, and then store this as the new value for the quantity variable. When you read these lines of code, you can imagine the boxes in your head. Even though we're used to reading things from left to right, I always start with what's on the right-hand side of the equal sign first. In this case, we have the current value of quantity, which is 2, and then we add 1 to it, and that makes 3. Then we store the 3 inside the quantity variable, like this. The right-hand side is an expression, which we learned about earlier, and an expression can be made up of variables, operators, and literal values, and more. If we click on the plus button again, then we can say quantity equals quantity plus 1. At this point, the current value of quantity is 3, then we add 1 to it, and that makes 4. Then we store 4 as the new value inside the quantity variable, like this. Essentially, we've reduced it down to a common pattern that the computer can repeat each time the plus button is pressed. Instead of having to write a new line of code that says the explicit value of the number of cups of coffee, we can just do quantity equals quantity plus 1 and continue to build off of the existing value of quantity. This is a lot more flexible. Say you wanted to change the initial quantity to 3, then the rest of the lines of code wouldn't have to change at all because we would always use the latest value of quantity, whatever it is. In our old approach, if we wanted to update the quantity value to 3, then after you hit the plus button, you would have to write a new line of code that says quantity equals 4 and update this to be quantity equals 5. When we update the quantity to a completely new literal value each time, it's hard for the computer to know what the pattern is between them. Instead, if we update quantity based on the current value of that variable, and we increment it in a predictable way, then the computer will be able to do this every single time that the plus button is pressed. This approach will work a lot better for our coffee ordering app. Each time we hit the plus button, we can just increase the existing quantity value by 1. Practice writing out each line of code by typing them into the boxes we've provided here. Pay attention to each character and symbol. This is the first time you're updating a variable using the variable itself, so make sure you type out this variable name correctly. When you're done, fill out this column that represents the current quantity value after each line of code is executed.